Hey everyone, hi there, it's Dr. Jen. It's What's Up Wednesday. Welcome, I'm really excited today. I think this is going to be like really casual and I hope a lot of people chime in. I'll wait a little bit so more people will be viewing live. It's Dr. Jen with What's Up Wednesday, and this is actually screen-free week. And as you know probably from my posts and Instagram, you'll see me talking about lots of other things to do with your children besides watching TV or playing on the screens, and wanted to get suggestions from parents as well, what you like to do with your child as well too, whether it be out on the scooter or on the swings, especially with the weather being so nice. This segment is called, well, basically it's all about tech tips from toddler to teens, a family plans, and what you can do really for family media plan. And I'm going to try to give you some guidelines. And, you know, I'm not here to judge, but there definitely are some guidelines that are important. Why technology can be helpful, why certain times it actually can be harmful, how much, and what you can do to really incorporate it appropriately into your family life. Because as I tell all my patients, is that technology is really here to stay. It continues more and more. I'm like surprised that I'm actually able to do Facebook Live and post it. The more things come out each day, and we're trying to keep up with it, but there's just so much technology. And our young kids are even better at it than we are, obviously, as we get older, and we look to them for answers into the future too. But so, as I said, technology is really here to stay. And what I tell parents is that technology and screens, they're not good and they're not inherently bad. It's really how you use them, how often you use them, what you're watching, when, and where and why. So there's many reasons. So it's really what you do with it and how you incorporate it into your family. So I do really kind of want to start. So as I said, this is screen-free week, and I think it's virtually impossible, to be honest. There are some, but it's almost impossible to have a totally screen-free week, right? Even if you're listening to me today, then obviously it's not a screen-free week, and I'm using a screen here now too, talking about decreasing time with kids. So really just using it as a platform to talk about really making and personalizing screen time in your household, and knowing and setting some guidelines and some limits on kids, and when it's necessary and when it's not. And you'll also see, if you check out my website, I wrote an article, and I also on Facebook many other articles about screen time and kids from some other great pediatricians, so check those out as well too. But really starting from the beginning, and personally I totally believe this as well, as being an AAP, or an American Academy of Pediatrics spokesdoctor, that children under 2, really there's not necessary to have screen time at all. It's not helpful, and it actually can be harmful. So there's lots and lots more research. And I'm going to say here today, there's a lot that we know, but there's a lot that we're still learning. We don't really know everything, but we do know that the brains of children, especially the first 3 years, they're rapidly growing, they're expanding, and actually there are connections that are coming together, there are connections that are pruning, that are going away, and it's all very intricate. And part of learning for kids is really hands-on, it's social. So social one-on-one back and forth, talking to your child or your baby, young kids playing and touching, and Play-Doh and finger painting and making a mess and playing with toys. So important for those interactions to be occurring, as opposed to sitting in front of a two-dimensional screen. You're going to see things and in the media that say, you know, it's going to help your child become brighter and smarter, and we know that's just not true. Baby Einstein, I know, using it by name, but like throw them out, not necessary, and really not advantageous, and actually, as I said, can be harmful, because that's not really what the ABCs at age 1.5 is really not what your child should be focusing on. And I get that all the time, that parents, they know words, and then they're sight reading, and they're knowing all their letters, And that's good and fine, but my questions to them are, are they following commands? Are they having pretend play or imagination? Will they play with a kitchen? Do they play with a doll? Will they pretend to feed a baby? Are they eating with a fork and a spoon? Are they drawing and scribbling? Are they using both their hands? So all these things are so important for their development, and that doesn't develop if they're sitting all day in front of a screen trying to learn more vocabulary that way. They learn it by the environment, by interacting with adults. Obviously, much more than children. When they're very little, they're mainly interacting with their parents and family friends and caregivers as well. So that's all really, really important. So screen time under the age of 2 is not necessary, and actually really can be detrimental. And not trying to scare anyone, but it's not necessary. And I think that parents get scared. I often hear, well, they're going to get behind, because I know kids that they're already using iPads or apps, and they know how to do them, and it's amazing how they can turn them on and go to the next one and look at the pictures. And it's pretty intuitive for kids. It's amazing. But they're not going to get behind. Don't worry about that. I'd rather them be playing with blocks. We'll talk about other things that we can do to help your child for communication and to learning at a young age. But being with video and watching TV isn't going to make them smarter or go to Harvard or an Ivy League school. And that's not really what you should be focusing on when they're really young either. It's just more, again, getting their cognitive abilities appropriate for their age. And even listening to music is great, and singing and playing with puppets. So all those things are really, really important. The one thing that I would say is for 18 months and above, screen time used for like video chatting with grandparents or a parent who's away or relatives that are far away, and a child can understand and speak and say hello. I think it's great that they can see them and speak to them that way. If they're in the services and a parent is away, it's a great way to communicate. And as I said, there are a lot of positives to technology. It's not all negative. There's certainly a lot of positives, but we just don't want to overdo it. And certainly when grandparents can come visit in person, that's even better too. But sometimes it has to be by video chatting. And so your children can see extended relatives and family that way as well too. But besides that, at that young age, they really don't need to be watching video games. And you're going to see that they're going to say that they're educational. And there's no proven evidence or studies showing that these videos for young minds, for infants under age 2, are educational or helpful. And as I said, they can be detrimental. So I really don't recommend that. And that's pretty strong. So after that, a little bit older toddlers, age 2 to 5. What about screen time for those toddlers and preschoolers? And the recommendation, the guidelines from the American Academy of Pediatrics, or the AAP, is really no more than 1 hour of really high quality screen time, and to be watching it with your child, so you can see what they're doing, see what they're watching, interact with them, ask them questions. A lot of these like apps and games, it's just basically this like positive reinforcement. They see bright lights and things happen quickly, and they almost feel like addicted to it. They just want to keep playing and playing, and it's hard to take away from them. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute too. So you want to make sure that you limit it to no more than really 1 hour of high quality programming. And those are things like PBS and Sesame Street, and as they get older, Super Y, and things that they can be learning preschool. Again, that's letters and learning and sequencing. That can definitely be helpful prior to the start of school, but does not have to be done at the very young age. And again, you really want to try not to use it as a babysitter. Obviously, so yes, sometimes you may be sick, or you may be making dinner and you want that half hour, and then you can choose that time then to do the video time or the screen time with your child, maybe next to you in the room while you're cooking or getting ready for dinner or what have you, or sitting in the living room next to them and talking about different things. But again, you just don't want that to be spent the maximum of their time playing. because their time is spent playing with real 3D toys and things as well. So that's really important. And some of the studies, as I said, we don't want to do too much time in front of screen time, even for those toddlers 2 to 5, because there are studies that show that it may affect concentration and hyperactivity. These videos that they watch, and kids as they get older and older, they happen really quickly. They're not in real time, right? So like a show is usually like a 30-minute show, but it's probably 20 minutes because then it's full of commercials that kids are seeing as well too, which we're going to talk about. That is an influence on them as well too. But these shows, they're happening so quickly that the whole day, what happens to Johnny in the morning and goes to school, everything happens in like 20 minutes. And that's not reality, right? Things are much slower. So we want to slow things down for kids as well too, because it's just happening really quickly in their brains. And they're saying that they've done studies showing that it may be correlated with more hyperactivity and difficulty with concentration for kids who watch lots and lots and lots of TV. And then also violence as well on TV, especially for young kids. Now, oftentimes parents think because it's a cartoon, it's not violent, but it definitely can be. Even if it's a character pretends to get shot and then they're fine again, that still can be very stressful to a child. So you have to be really careful with that too. So again, you want to know ahead of time what your child is watching. There's now always on different devices that there's parental control, so you can decide what shows and when your child can watch and how much. You can even set time limits on a lot of these new devices too, which is amazing. I think is really good. So it puts, again, you as a parent more in control. So I talked a little bit, so give you some tips now for toddlers. As I said, don't feel that pressure to introduce it to them because they're going to learn how to do it. You want to watch together. We're going to avoid the violence. We're going to do no more than 1 hour if we can. And we don't really want to leave the TV on as background noise. So you may think, well, it's a show that your toddler's not even watching. It's just the news. But again, you don't want to have it on as background noise for actually quite a few reasons. One, studies have been shown that there's less interaction and talking with a child or a toddler when the TV is on in the background. If you shut it off, there's much more interactions. And again, that's so important for their learning and their cognition. And also, again, news can be scary. You never know what's going to pop up on the news. And you may not think it's scary, but they may see a car chase or an accident. And again, that may then interfere with their sleep or anxiety and stress. So try to make sure that if your child's in the room and it's not necessary to turn off TVs if you're not watching them, and shouldn't be on just all the time as plain old background noise. One other thing that I want to say also, actually probably more than one other thing I want to say about toddlers is that you don't want to use media and screens and iPads as a pacifier. And what I mean by that is give that to shut them up, to get them quieter, because they're being annoying. That's just it's gonna make them happy. It's like they're not learning how to deal with their emotions. And I'm not saying that you should never use it in high stress situations. So yes, like if you're stuck on an airplane, yeah, it's great to bring the iPads and bring the snacks and stuff because you have no, you really need them to stay calm. But it's not good, to have it at restaurants and not good to have out at dinner time. You want to make what we call sort of video or zones that are free of technology. So then you can talk back and forth. And maybe, honestly, sometimes I think that, if a child isn't supposed to be able to sit through a 3-hour meal, then maybe that they shouldn't be coming to that. Or find other things to bring, but you don't really want them on, watching on the screen that whole time either. That's not good for them as well either. But at home, during the dinner table, you want to really, power down all those devices. You can put a box where everyone puts in their devices so they are not being used. But I see this a lot in my office. So, you go to the doctor's office and maybe you think that you have to wait a long time. It depends on your doctor. I actually run pretty on time. But obviously, yes, emergencies come up. But there are other things, as books that you can bring with, or as I said, snacks, and we have games for the kids and as well too. But I've walked into rooms and patients will be there and the child will be playing a game, and then I'll try to interact with them and talk to them, and they won't, and you know, they're just, I have to finish, and then if the parent goes to turn it off, then, you know, it comes a full-blown tantrum, and then they want me to wait till they finish their game, until then I can start examining them, and then I get behind for the next person. So it could be a vicious cycle. So you have to you really don't want to use it as a pacifier, and you don't want it to use it as like the only reinforcement. I think they have to understand, again, if you want to keep it for the end, maybe when the exam is over and I'm talking to the parent, but you have to really learn to balance and try not to use it just to satisfy their emotional, so they don't have emotional outbursts and tantrums, because in the end it's going to backfire and not be helpful for them either. They have to learn other ways of calming and dealing with their emotions, and learning how to wait. And that's like another whole episode we could talk about, learning how to wait, because you can't always get everything you want right at that minute, and it has to be appropriate, obviously, for the age of the child as well too. So as I said, you want to make zones in your home that for all age are really TV and digitally free. So one of them would be at the dinner table. And I'm going to say, I know it's even hard in my house, because when I'm on call, I have to keep my phone on, because now that's like, we used to have beepers, but now we have the phones. And so I can have different rings, so I'll know if it's a real emergency that I have to pick up now, or I can call back the patient in 30 minutes, and my patients know that I'll call them back if necessary. But if I'm in the middle of dinner, I try to really wait, because I want my kids to, obviously, I have to be a model for them as well as they're growing up too. And I think that's the best way in your family. You have to be a good role model, so they are prudent with their use too of technology. And you know, multitasking also. Well, so many accidents with kids, right? So your kids are in the park, but instead of playing with them, or you may be on the phone, and then you may turn your head for 1 second, and then accidents can occur then too. So you really want to be present when you can. And yes, obviously sometimes you need to talk on your phone, you have to make phone calls, but you need to try to balance the time too between when you're actively being with your child as well too. So when we talk about zone-free areas in the home, another one would be the bedroom, and that's really important too. So no TVs. We used to just, so now it's really like no screens, because then kids may watch them in the middle of the night. They may get up, they stay up later, they have a harder time falling asleep if they have screens in the room. I'm going to talk about why that is in a moment. And you really want to make sure that at least an hour before they go to bed, that there's really no screens on either, again, because they just actually makes them more wide and more awake and more difficult for them to fall asleep. So I think I kind of spoke about this, but I'm just going to reiterate. So how do you enhance your toddler's communication skills if we're not supposed to be using all these so-called educational apps? And as I said, playing one-on-one, having something called joint attention is so important in toddlers. That's when the two of you are playing with a toy, and you're playing with it together, and they're looking at the toy, and they're looking at you, and they're looking at your expressions, and then also taking turns is another important part of communication. And learning to speak is by hearing things and seeing it in context. And not just on a 2D screen as opposed to 3D in real life, where they can touch you and sit on your lap and play with you, and they can play with their toys and puzzles and building blocks. And something that I recommend, this is a little tip, is to rotate toys. So it may be that they love to play the iPad because they have it so much, but you know what? If they don't have it, then they're going to look for something else to do. So rotate the toys. Put different toys out, and then maybe have a box the next week of other toys that they can play with. And this way they're excited when you then rotate back to what you did the week before, because it seems like new again to them. So that's actually a really important tip. I love to tell parents to buy toys without batteries, or to take the batteries out. You know, go back to those old play school farmhouse where you can move the little animals around the farm, and the child can make the animal noises and you can make it with them, as opposed to pressing the button and just hearing the sound. So again, sometimes electronics aren't really that helpful, because you want the child to be learning and communicating and actually making up stories by themselves and being creative and imaginative, role playing, dress up. All these things are so important, that instead of just dressing up a doll on a screen, but doing it themselves, because again, they're getting the fine motor control as well, the gross motor control of putting on an outfit and putting on a crown. So it can be exciting and different. And so I think sometimes parents don't know that it can be just as fun to do things not on a screen. So let me tell you why limiting screen time is important. I spoke a little bit about it, but one of the really big issues is sleep. And kids who are playing a lot, sometimes it gets them very hyped up and then they can't go to sleep at night. But also the light, the blue light from the screen also is really bad. And that's why we say don't have screen time before going to bed. It also decreases the melatonin that's naturally, that helps you to get into your rhythm of sleeping at night. So you don't want to do screens at night. It's a great time to read, or maybe even play a board game or something, listen to music with your child before they go to bed, just talk about the day, ends on a positive note, but really try to avoid the screen time an hour before they're going to bed. We also know that obviously sleep is really important because that's when growth occurs. Immunity is also built and strengthened if they get enough sleep too. So sleep in childhood is probably one of the most important things that they can do. And that's really what I want to stress. I'd rather stress the sleep than really playing on the computers and learning their ABCs at a very young age. And school performance too, as I said, you can check out my blog, but there's studies showing decreased school performance when kids are playing too long and too much on video games, their concentration. Also, when they have, it's not just video games, but now they have, many at a young age already have phones, or they have messengers, and they're on their computers, and they sort of have to be, because some of the schools use iPads for school, like in my kids' school. And then they are multitasking, and actually they're not really paying attention to the homework because they're getting texts from their friends, and then they're trying to answer that, and they're trying to do their math questions, so they're not really paying their full attention. So it's a really good idea, again, to have that zone-free area, and maybe their homework area, where again the phone and the electronics go into a basket, and after their homework is done, then they can take it out themselves. I have to just tell you the story because I was actually very proud of my daughter. She's now in high school. She's a freshman, but we went to see the guidance counselor. They, again, I don't know if they know I was a pediatrician or not, but we're giving tips on media use and talking about how that you should shut off your phone during homework times. And my daughter actually spoke up, and she's already done this herself. She's actually, her brother is in college, so she's taken over his room for study time because it has no distractions in there. There's nothing in her room. She doesn't bring her phone in there, and she can just really study and get that done and concentrate, and then get back to other activities. And if we know, so I was just pretty proud of that moment that she actually was able to think of that on her own. But just getting back, that you want to make sure that, you don't have too much time, even when you're finished with your homework, of just playing video games, because that's going to then take away time from physical activity, right? There's only so many hours in the day. As I said, your kids need to sleep a lot, right? At least 8 to 10 hours you want them to get, depending on their age, and more if they're very young. They're going to school 6 hours a day, and then they've got homework you have to eat. There's some family time. It doesn't really leave, and then if they're playing video games, it doesn't really leave that much time for exercise. And kids need to have at least an hour a day of good physical activity, be out and about. And kids actually, little kids, shouldn't be sitting for more than an hour. They should be moving around. They should be exploring areas as well too. So you don't want them just sitting on the couch. And this is just an interesting little story that came up yesterday. It actually involves my daughter again too. But I don't even know if she knew it was screen-free week. But my husband is really big on not having my kids sit on the couch, even if they were just out doing exercise and he comes home, he sees them, he wants to get them up off the couch. But anyway, yesterday I was coming home from work, and I texted my daughter and before I got in my car, and she said, "Hey Mom, I'm out on a walk with Dad." And I said, "Oh, that's great." And then I proceeded to call her, and she's like, didn't pick up the phone. She's like, then texted me like, "Why are you calling me? I'm out on a walk." And I thought that was so great that she's actually said that to me, because that was what they were doing. And again, I didn't want her multitasking, talking on the phone. They were out having a conversation, speaking about the day or whatever they were speaking about, and getting activity together time as well, and also getting physical activity. But really, I was only calling to see if she needed me to bring her home anything before I left my office. But it was great to see that they were out and about, and even though she had her phone with her, she wasn't using it when she had this time together with her dad. So that was like really nice to hear. I was really pleased about that. So moving on, we talked about dinner conversation, family walks, and about the importance of kids getting sleep, so turning down the videos at least an hour before they go to sleep. And then as kids get older, I want to say I spoke a little bit about my teen daughter. She probably won't be too thrilled about me talking about her, but I think it's important right from the start, right? I'm always talking about healthy habits, so you've got to be a good role model as a parent. I think when it's younger, you definitely need to supervise and know what sites they're on, be friends with your friends on their social medias. But as things get older, in other areas, there has to be some trust as well too. I'm going to say, though the internet is different, you have to be very careful. Like, kids, as they get older, do need to have some privacy, right? Like when I was younger, I had a diary. I didn't want my mom and my dad going through my diary. So I don't really want or feel the need to have to go through all my daughter's texts or my son's texts. He's older now. But you want to get to that point that there's that mutual trust, that they understand that they're using it appropriately and properly too, and that you trust them, and that they know that they can come to you. It's important to always talk to your kids that nothing on the internet ever goes away. They can think it does, and they can have these Snapchats that go away, but nothing goes away, and that pictures can be dangerous, that there's predators out there, and you have to keep having these conversations over and over with them. Important for kids to talk about sexting. I know you probably think as parents it doesn't happen that common, but I'm telling you, as a pediatrician, it does happen. Kids do tell me, and they may not have even told their parents, but it happens, and it can be really devastating. And even things, as academically, as kids are looking to go into college from high school, colleges now are looking at social pages of kids entering college to see what they're doing online as well too, and it can have an influence there too. And of course, cyberbullying, and about being talk to your child about being the bully or being bullied. Both you have to understand. Sometimes it occurs. So if you're seeing any changes in your child, not sleeping well, not wanting to go to school, issues with their friends, feeling stomach aches or headaches, again, school avoidance, or not wanting to get up, sleeping more or less, anything that seems out of the ordinary, it's important to talk to them, see if something's going on. There may be something going on socially or in the media, or with something that's going on with them, with their friends, and it's important to then intervene, to speak with them. It's not always about solving the problems, but you need to be aware. Kids always need to have a safe person, whether it's their parent, a caregiver, someone at school who they can feel that they can go to. All this is important, and again, it all builds upon from childhood, from newborn all the way up. And as I said, technology is really here to stay, and I'm going to say this again, it's not good and it's not bad, it's how we use it. And so we need to be in control of how our families use the media in our homes, especially when they're still at home. Parents, you can go to actually healthychildren.org and /media use plan, and it's really kind of cool instrument there where it will tell you and show you how much media use is happening for each child. You put in all the information and how much exercise they're getting, and then it can help you make a personalized media plan for you and your family, and I think that's important. So hopefully you got some great tips, and I answered a lot of the questions that people have texted in to me prior. And if you have more questions about tech and tips from toddler to teenhood, please let me know. You can go to my website, drjen.com, send me an email from there, and I can answer you. Sign up on my email to get more tips from me, as well as Pediatrician in Your Pocket, my full comprehensive parenting guide for new parents that have newborns through toddlers, really giving you everything you need to know about caring for your child from A to Z. And I will see you again next week on What's Up Wednesday. And good luck with Screen Free Week. Hope you can think of some more fun and exciting things to do, especially outside in this great weather. Have a great day. It's Dr. Jen.